Jay Inslee, the governor of Washington, is the first governor to jump in the race, but certainly not the first candidate to jump into this clown car. He has announced that he is running for office. Let's go ahead and look at a piece of his campaign video.
We're the first generation to feel the sting of climate change, and we're the last that can do something about it. We went to the moon and created technologies that have changed the world. Our country's next mission must be to rise up to the most urgent challenge of our time, defeating climate change. This crisis isn't just a chart or graph anymore. The impacts are being felt everywhere. We have an opportunity to transform our economy, run on 100% clean energy that will bring millions of good-paying jobs to every community across America, create a more just future for everyone. I'm Jay Inslee, and I'm running for president because I'm the only candidate who will make defeating climate change our nation's #1 priority. We can do this. Join our movement. This is our moment.
This is our moment.
Okay, so you can see that he's making his entire campaign right now about climate change. And I do want to say that I think that for the smaller named candidates that don't have the huge punching power of like Kamala Harris and Bernie Sanders, I do think it's really wise to hone in on one issue. Of course, every candidate has, they run the risk of being labeled a one-issue candidate, but I think that this is what's helping set them apart, and it's a pretty good strategy. And we're seeing it done with everybody, right? We're seeing Tulsi Gabbard, she's making her campaign all about regime change wars. You see Andrew Yang, he's making his campaign all about universal basic income. You see even Elizabeth Warren, she's saying corruption, we're going to get the corruption out of Washington. You've got, now you've got Jay Inslee, he's saying it's all about climate change. I do think this is really smart because it does help differentiate the candidates one from another. So rather than saying, well, pick me because I'm, I look different, or I have a different gender, a different race, they instead are saying, look, I've got a different focus. And I actually think this is really good. I think we're coming a long way. I think people have said, listen, we don't want to do the whole identity politics thing. And of course, if you're a guy like Jay Inslee, you don't have an identity politics claim. He is what we've always had. And so for especially a candidate like himself, he would have to focus in on what his platform would be. But, in the years past, candidates would give really general campaign platforms. And now what we're seeing is this new strategy of, okay, let's hone in on something and let's make it different. Andrew Yang's is very different. He says universal basic income, and nobody had really heard about that. And I'm sure each other, there's many other candidates out there, and many of them are making a focus one thing. But, when you look at like Kamala Harris or Cory Booker, Kamala's like, let's just be decent. And Cory Booker says, can't we all just get along? And at least these other people are saying, hey, universal basic income, we've got a problem with technology, they're going to take over. Or Jay Inslee, who's saying, hey, listen, climate change, this is going to affect us all. I mean, we need a healthy place, a healthy earth in order to live on, in order to thrive. Tulsi Gabbard is saying, hey, these regime change wars are costing lives and costing money. So you've got these one issue candidates that, in fairness, are not really one issue, but this is the message of their campaign. And I think it is so smart, especially at this stage, because it does give media outlets a reason to talk to them, to say, okay, this is your big focus. Let's talk about that. And it is going to be different than sitting down. When you get Elizabeth Warren in the room, you're going to get something different than when you get Andrew Yang or Tulsi Gabbard or Jay Inslee in the room. They're going to have a different message rather than all saying the same thing, which is, yes, we're for Medicare for all and universal education and X, Y, and Z, because all of them have co-opted. Only a few of them truly believe in those platform positions that Bernie Sanders originally had come out with. There's only two, maybe, or three that actually believe in that. The rest of them have kind of had to co-opt those positions in order to be viable candidates, although you do have some that say, oh, forget it, like Howard Schultz, who I don't even know if he's actually running. And of course, Amy Klobuchar, who says that she's more moderate and she's not for those things. And she's pretty much come out saying, no, I'm not for that. But by and large, so many of them are running on so many similar positions that it's really good to see them come out and say, I'm for this one thing. Now, with Jay Inslee, the only problem I have with coming out and saying, I'm going to be the climate change candidate, is yes, climate change is completely something we should be afraid of. It's serious. We do need to take some serious measures in order to reduce our carbon footprint. But as we saw in France, as we're seeing in France, the average person, when they're stressed out, when they're strapped, when they're struggling, they have a hard time saying, yeah, you know what? Right now, I just want to focus on climate change, when they personally can't afford medicines to survive to tomorrow, when they can't afford educations for their children, when they can't afford to make rent. Thinking about the climate is, unfortunately for these people, not high on the priority list. So I don't think, even though it is a big priority, it really is, for many people, it's a luxury priority to think about. I know that it shouldn't be, because it's affecting us and we absolutely need to do something about it. It still is for the average person. When they're struggling, they're not sitting there thinking, wow, the environment is crumbling and what's going to happen to my future. They're thinking, I don't even have a future at the rate that we're going. So it doesn't matter. I have no future, and neither do my kids. And it has nothing to do with climate change. It has everything to do with the fact that I can't get them educated and I can't get them medicines, and I can't provide. So that's going to be a tougher message than, for example, Andrew Yang's real message of, hey, universal basic income, I'm going to give everybody $1,000. The average struggling American is going to say, I could use $1,000 right now. That's going to affect me today. And as we saw in France, bringing it back to that, when the people are strapped for cash and they're feeling already like they're being buried, when you then add things to them under the name of climate change, which is what happened in France, they said, okay, we're going to start taxing more on the gas, and it's going to go towards climate change. It's going to go towards, then the people rose up and said, we can't afford this right now. We cannot be the ones to carry the brunt of this. We're just the working people, and we can't do this. Don't put it on us, which they're right. It should be put on the companies that are actually doing the polluting. So it's going to be interesting to see what Jay Inslee, even though he's come out and said, I'm the candidate for climate change, it is going to be interesting to see how he plans to put that into effect. Hopefully he's learning a lesson from France, and that he says he's not going to put the burden on the people, but he's going to put the burden on the big companies that are creating the pollution. So we're going to have to just wait and see what his actual message is, what his plan is. So, but yeah, just when I thought the last who are going to be announcing are probably going to be Beto and Biden, Jay Inslee surprises me. But, he's a governor, and I think that's the most qualified type of person for the role of president would be a governor. In my opinion, they've done the job on a smaller scale, but they've done that exact job. And so I do think that governors are, by virtue of the job, the most qualified. So it is nice to see a governor jump into the race. And maybe the governor of Montana might jump in as well. And who knows, guys? I mean, I think we could, as much as I think, oh, yeah, this is it, I'm sure there's going to be 5, 6, 10, 15, 50 more who jump in. The whole Democratic Party just says, we're in, we're all running, all of us. All right, guys, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining me. Please subscribe if you haven't yet. Hit the bell so that you get the notification when I put videos up. Also, I do really very much appreciate your support on Patreon. That helps keep this going so that I don't have to do videos this late at night like I am right now. And this is a podcast too. So you can download the podcast, subscribe to the podcast, and get it in audio form and take me wherever you go. All right, guys, I will see you later. Thanks for joining me.